Good evening, Patrick. Steve Riddle from Lancaster.
Hi, Steve. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. And you are too, I hope.
I'm doing well.
Okay. Good
Um,
evening, Patrick. Steve Riddle from Lancaster.
Hi, Steve. How are you doing?
Good. Who's this?
Sorry, I think you heard my YouTube stream start.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to go silent for
All
you.
right. All right, we'll go ahead and get started in about one more minute.
Good.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Botts Forbes. I am the LAFD CERT Central Bureau Coordinator, and this is our third Wednesday of the month CERT Continuing Education Training. What we do with these is we cycle between beginner, intermediate, and advanced topics. Tonight's topic is going to be one of the more advanced topics, tracking the incident from start to finish. Beginner topics we've done are really open to a much broader audience. Of course, all these trainings are open to anyone who is community emergency response team trained or not, but the beginner topics are especially welcoming to those individuals who are not trained. The more advanced topics really take what you've learned in the basic CERT training and push it to a whole new level. And that's part of what we're going to be discussing tonight is really things that are not even discussed in the basic CERT training, but are really required to make the CERT, the community emergency response team ideal or mission, really something that can be accomplished at the neighborhood level. Really, the primary mission of the Community Emergency Response Team, as it was created here in Los Angeles and then taken nationwide through FEMA and even worldwide over the last several years, is that the concept that during a regional disaster, and I'm talking about something, and it's going to vary from region to region, but in LA City, LA County wide, or rather Southern California wide, we predict that the big one, the a large scale earthquake along the San Andreas Fault, is going to start at the Salton Sea, travel through LA County up into Kern County, and kind of end somewhere around Bakersfield. That is a massive amount of area with tens of millions of people affected by this one earthquake. And the idea that that amount of space and that amount of population is going to be without power, without water, without a lot of resources that they expect and that they are normalized to, is something that we really haven't seen before. When we talk about the Northridge earthquake in the late 90s, that was really a localized earthquake that affected the Valley and West LA. even within LA City, parts of LA City were, while we felt the earthquake for sure, we lost power. We didn't have any damage, at least nothing compared to what they experienced in Northridge and the surrounding areas. So resources are set up with mutual aid. So if LA City needs help, for example, during the Woolsey fire, it was predominantly LA City run. We had a lot of fire stations in LA City that were closed down or were staffed through mutual aid. We actually had Orange County Fire staffing some LA City Fire Department stations. When we talk about the big one and truly a regional disaster, the mutual aid that will be coming in won't be from neighboring jurisdictions. Orange County is going to be equally hit by the big one, as is Kern County, as is San Bernardino County, very likely San Diego, San Bernardino, the Inland Empire will all be impacted by this same earthquake. And this will be a truly regional disaster. The idea behind the community emergency response team training is really to get the community prepared for such an event so that we can, as community members, be prepared, have basic training to take care of ourselves and our families, and then, if we wish to, safely help our neighbors. And what we can do is, with whatever basic training we've been given, is mitigate small, minor problems. Um, for example, the number one injury during the Northridge quake was cut up feet. And a cut foot, if it's not properly treated, can get infected very easily and go from a minor medical emergency to a major medical emergency. Uh, an infected foot, especially on someone who's, say, diabetic, could result in amputation of that foot. So the basic training that the community emergency response team gives can mitigate a lot of these minor medical emergencies or minor emergencies if we can just clean, debride, and properly bandage that foot. It will allow it to heal and not get infected. And you're saving the person from having to go to the hospital. And that's really the idea. We know the hospitals will be overwhelmed. Going to the hospital during or immediately after an earthquake is the last thing that anybody would ever want to do. Um, but if you have to go, you have to go. So what we want to do is really focus on taking care of the minor issues. Let the professionals deal with the major emergencies, the stuff that they are trained for, the stuff that they're equipped for, the stuff that we can't handle at our level. And so, as it was taught, started here, the concept behind the training is, and I've heard firefighters talk about this, this is stuff that they learn in their basic training. Everything that we learn at CERT in the basic training class is what the fire department learns pretty much throughout their basic training. They just get more advanced stuff on top of it. And that makes sense because this was developed by the Los Angeles Fire Department. And so what they teach is how to size up and assess an incident or a situation. If you approach something, you should know what you're getting into, know how to get out of it, and know if it's not safe to enter. If you go into somewhere blind, you could become part of that incident. You could become a victim. And that's what the training teaches us to avoid. It teaches us to recognize dangers that could put rescuers at risk, as well as other survivors, and teaches us it's really what it boils down to is the basic CERT training is a toolkit. Gives you a lot of uh, skills, a lot of concepts, a lot of ideas that you can then put to use when you respond. It teaches you how to do basic first aid, medical triage, teaches you how to use a fire extinguisher, how fires happen. You need three things: heat, fuel, and oxygen. And if you remove any of those three, the fire will go out. So it teaches you how you can do other things like smother a kitchen fire in a pan instead of using a fire extinguisher on it. Um, and then if you have a larger fire, how to use, say you're in an apartment building that has a fire hose, how those work and what they're capable of doing. Teaches you how to search a building for survivors, how to stabilize and lift heavy objects. That's called cribbing. If you have someone that is trapped and you need to get the debris off of them, how you can do that safely without causing either further injury to the survivor or worse, putting one of the rescuers at risk from that debris. Teaches you how to mark a building using the FEMA markings that search and rescue teams use throughout the country. And that way, other teams that arrive after you can identify this building has already been searched and they don't need to research it. Or, more importantly, if a team has gone in and has not come back out, they know that there's possibly a team stuck in there and they need to go and confirm that that team actually got out and then hopefully just forgot to finish off the marking. And then how teams operate under the incident command system. Really what the training is it's designed to be generic. It's designed to be generic enough to apply to anyone within the country. It's taught here in Los Angeles, California. It's taught in New York, it's taught in Texas, it's taught in Florida, it's taught in Utah, it's taught in Washington, it's taught in Puerto Rico, it's taught Hawaii. Every state has some sort of CERT program, and then it's taught worldwide. And it's all the same basic concepts. But the catch is that it's designed to be so generic that it is also not too specific. They don't want it to be so specific that it doesn't apply to disasters in your region, because if you say don't have tornadoes in your area, you're not at risk of tornadoes. Learning about tornadoes off of the federal curriculum may not apply to you, and therefore you'll probably tune it out. So it really needs to be customized to your local region. And every program that teaches it is supposed to customize it. I don't know that they do. I assume that they will, but I haven't taken the training everywhere. I've only seen how it's taught in Los Angeles. So it could be taught at that extremely basic level, or it could be taught to a much more specific level for that specific region. However, what it is it boils down to here is a toolkit for you to then take to the next level. And what we've done in Los Angeles, if we've realized this, as it stands, the people who take the basic CERT training are given that toolkit and then said, good luck, you're on your own. Figure out how to use the tools we've given you to make things happen. They don't go into specific details about how to use those tools, how to really use what you've been taught in the class and make it happen in your neighborhood. We have volunteer coordinators, myself, we have Christy Adair and a few other coordinators on this presentation tonight. And what we've done is we've been doing this for a while. I've been doing this for about 10 years now. The neighborhood team program is the accumulation of all of our years of experience, lessons learned, best practices, customizations that we've had to do to the program to make it really work at the neighborhood level. And these are all done by CERT volunteers who have lived this program since we got addicted to it when we were first introduced to it. We've designed the neighborhood team program system to really take CERT to the next level. And we've built example step-by-step guides so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. But what we've done is we've also made it so that the step-by-step guide should work out of the box. They should be customized to your local region, but unlike the basic CERT training, which absolutely requires you to customize it, this is a good starting point that you then can tweak and use in your own team with minor modifications. And you may say, okay, this doesn't work at all. And we say, okay, don't use it. Or you may say, hey, we need to do this, or we need to add this to our neighborhood team. And what we'll do is we'll rip you off and then modify what you've done and add it to our own collection as we share this with everyone else. And rip off is, of course, not really what we're doing, but it's the neighborhood team program is an ever evolving system because we're always learning more. And that's the important thing. There's nothing stagnant about this. If you look at the curriculum and you go, well, this is 20 years out of date, this doesn't apply anymore, then that doesn't help anybody. It has to constantly adjust and change over time. Our focus is on the process. Um, the basic CERT training is a focus on the skills. And so what we really want to do is say, how do we use those skills now? And how do we make this work? And how can you use it in your own situation? I talk about micro versus macro, and um, that term micro is really focused on the local. Macro is focused on a wider scale. And when talk about what CERT training is, it's really micro focused. It's focused on the incident, on a single incident. What skills do I bring? What resources do I bring to deal with this one incident? But when you look at what we need and how other professional responders operate, they have to operate simultaneously at a macro and micro level. Macro is strategy. Macro is how, and the mission of CERT is help the greatest number of people uh, do the greatest good for the greatest number of people in the shortest amount of time. That is the strategy where we talk about the macro level. How can we help as many people as possible? We're not talking about one incident. We're talking about maybe 20 incidents that we've discovered. What is the best use of our resources and time? Resources, the key resource being individuals, team members. How many teams do we have in the field right now? How do we not burn them out, but how do we help the greatest number of people? And if we can only accomplish completing one single incident when there's 19 other incidents that need to be dealt with, that is not a good use of resources. Um, Tactics really focus on dealing with one thing at a time. If you're in a team, that's your focus. I have this one incident that I need to deal with. And once I'm done with this incident, then I'll receive my next incident and I'll go to that and deal with that. At the staging area, you're looking at the big picture. You're seeing, okay, we have 20 incidents, we have 3 incident response teams in the field. Does it make sense for this team finishing up on the far east side of our map to travel to an incident on the far west side of the map that might be 2 miles away? Or can they deal with a few other incidents along the way? Or maybe they just deal with the incident closest to them, and then a team on the north side can, as they complete, can go to the west side. It's all about strategy, maximizing resources and time. The team in the field, again, is focused at that micro level, the tactical. You're approaching an incident, you're going, what are the immediate needs for the survivors at this incident? And do we have the resources to help them? Resources being equipment, tools, supplies, rescuers. Sorry, 1 second. Um, the survivors at this incident, do we need to transport them to advanced care? If you have someone that's gravely injured and immediate that needs to go to the hospital, chances are that you don't have the skills and equipment to deal with this survivor to a satisfactory degree. If they need to go to the hospital, they need to go to the hospital. How are you going to get them there? Do you have a way to transport them? Do you have professionals? Is 911 working? Are cell phones working? Do you have radio communication with the fire department? Is there a way to call for help, advanced care, and get these survivors to where they need to go? Or is there someplace else we can take them to, a medical treatment area, for example, where we have maybe EMTs or hopefully a paramedic?
Did just Patrick freeze or? Patrick froze.
Okay. Like, is it
Yeah,
me?
he froze.
Yep.
Okay. I'm sure he'll be back.
Well, while we're waiting, I just wanted to say happy to see everybody. Hey, Tom.
Oh, it says I'm the host now, so I think he'll be back in a second. Well, for those of you in the San Fernando Valley area, we're having a big disaster drill on Saturday in Encino, and there's registration on Eventbrite for Encino disaster drill. So should be fun. It's a unique drill because it's as if there really was a disaster and people are just showing up at the park. They're checking in at staging, and then you will be divided between, medical or search and rescue. And then we're actually going to tear up the park and some buildings, and you're going to go in and do the work. And then we're going to have a field treatment area. So it's a unique opportunity to sort of see everything full circle. Patrick, are you back? I feel like I saw you pop in. Maybe not.
There was a message that popped up, Christy, that said that he was the host.
Yeah, I saw that. So that usually means that he's back online.
I don't see him, though.
I'm sure he's kicking himself because he spends a lot of time on these presentations and he really wants to provide great training for everybody that shows up. So I'm sure he's having and he's in IT. So I'm sure he's having an extra, throw himself in the dirt kind of a thing.
It looks like he's back, but his audio's not back online yet.
Oh, I'm the host. Patrick's the host. Yeah, he's trying. We haven't had any weird activity with high winds or power lines that are down. So I could oh, there he is.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
It's great. I have backup cellular that doesn't work either. Technology is great. What was the last thing you heard me say, Christy? You're muted, Christy.
Sorry. I've been talking, so I've already forgotten. I'm prepared for that drill, so my head is really somewhere else right now. I'm putting org charts together.
All right. Well, hopefully
just before the professional.
Yeah.
What was that?
You were about to get into calling professional responders.
Yes.
So was this slide?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's sometimes you need to get someone to EMT or paramedic ALS.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I was talking for several minutes before I realized I was not I got kicked out of the meeting. Okay. So yes, absolutely. What if we need to get these people to professional help? How do we do that? Do we have the ability to contact the fire department? Do we have the ability
No audio.
to... Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
No, we could hear you, Patrick. I think he was talking to somebody else.
Oh, okay. All right. If you don't have communication with the fire department or EMS or professionals, no way to transport to the hospital yet. You can short people, and hopefully you have in your team EMTs, nurses,
Just starting
so
cutting
you can
out
keep
again.
the people who...
You're breaking up again, Patrick.
Hold on. I'll keep my video up for now. Hopefully that will keep things stable until my cable modem comes back up. You want to set up a medical treatment area and take your survivors there, transport somehow, and that could be that you need to transport with your team, foot team, field team, using um, some sort of carriers or um, what if you have some vehicles available, a pickup truck or a station wagon, something that allows you to transport. Yes, you can have several people carry someone.
Lost you again.
Yeah, we lost Patrick again, right?
I think he's talking to the
Oh,
video.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
he's switching. He's probably trying to call in. Oh, Tarita, thank you for putting the link to the disaster drill for Saturday. Did anybody get to go to their fire stations on Fire Service Day this weekend? It was national, so for those of you not in Los Angeles, did you visit your fire station?
We did, and we went to Fire Station 63 in Venice, and we manned the CERT booth there, and we had a great time. Lots of children and kids, and a lot of, I mean, also a lot of adults, and some great food.
Oh, that's good. Anybody outside of Los Angeles that went to their fire stations on Fire Service Day? Somebody who works with me in Kansas said that she was taking her family to their local fire station to say thank you, which I thought was cute.
All right, hopefully I'm back on now and everything's stabilized.
Loud and clear.
And of course, the slide deck's locked open. Let's go. As we talk about the staging area, the focus shifts from the incident to the big picture. We're talking about macro, we're talking about strategy here. What you see is not what's in the field. You as the staging manager are staging, you don't know what the team in the field is dealing with, but you see all the incidents, you see the big picture, you see a map, you have what's been reported to you at from the teams in the field, and you have an idea of how bad things are, but you're blind. So your guiding principle here is do the greatest good for the greatest number in the shortest amount of time. You're going to be prioritizing which incidents do we deal with and what the order is that we deal with them in. You have to constantly keep in mind that you don't want to burn your teams out. So you don't want to have a team on the far east side of your map and you have to have them go to an incident on the far west side and travel 2 miles to get there, um, because you're going to burn out your team if you do that. What might make more sense is that you have that team on the far east side deal with incidents closer to them, even if they're lower priority, and then have a team, say, on the north side of the map that can free up and then go deal with a higher priority incident on the west side. You're always thinking, who can we save now with the resources we have? And that's the big focus is you need to know what you have. People are resources, teams are resources. They have equipment and gear, they have supplies. Those are all resources. And it really is a giant juggling act when you're at the staging area. You also have to really make this hard decision. Who cannot be saved, even if we do have all the resources and time in the world? If you send a team to deal with someone who is not going to make it, be it that they're sustained such injuries that they really need to be in a hospital right now, and you send a team over to them to try and keep them alive long enough, knowing that you cannot transport, you have no way to get them to the hospital, you lock up that team for however long until they, realize that what's going to happen to this person. And that's not a good use of resources. It's a horrible thing to have to think about and even consider, but it is something that you need to keep in the back of your mind because there might be other people, other survivors out there who you can help if your team can get to them and who they can do something. And if you don't get to them in time, they suddenly become critical and now they can't be saved. So can we transport survivors to definitive medical care, that being a hospital, urgent care, someplace where they can get the help they need? Or can we take them to a treatment area where that we can keep them in one place and prioritize transport out when we get transport available? Ultimately, do you have communication with the fire department, with EMS? Because if we can help them prioritize incidents that they need to deal with, then we become a force multiplier for them. Ultimately, you're trying to figure out how do we manage the resources we have? How do we maximize our resources without burning them out? And I'm going to let you in on a reality check here. You're never going to have enough people, enough time, enough equipment, or enough supplies to help everyone. In a larger program like Los Angeles, we hopefully have a lot of CERT trained people, but we never have enough. If you go to a CERT refresher, and we've seen some of the big ones they've run in the Valley, and there's 120 CERT trained members there, that's awesome. But if your neighborhood has 5 CERT trained people, you have 5 CERT trained people. No one else is coming. You're not going to get another 30 people coming from surrounding neighborhoods to back you up because they're going to be dealing with their own emergencies. And if 5 is all you have, you really need to focus on doing the greatest good for the greatest number of people in the shortest amount of time with the resources you have. And what we're going to talk about is throughout this presentation is if we have a bigger program, if we have more trained people, how do we make this really work? Because that's the ultimate goal, should be get as many people trained, build our team. but we also have to think simultaneously, think small and think big. The other thing is I strongly discourage reassigning roles to your team, because if you have someone who's supposed to be the incident commander and they are in Bermuda on vacation when the earthquake happens, who's going to be the incident commander? If you haven't thought about that, you've got problems. Or what if your incident commander gets injured and you don't have a backup for them? Or your radio communicator gets injured, or their radio breaks. What we really strongly encourage is cross training. Everyone should train for all the roles. It might not be the role you want to play, but if it's the role that you need to play, you should be able to step into that role and backfill where, and that should always be the question is, when you arrive at the staging areas, where do you need me? The CERT forms that are included in the training class are loosely based on FEMA's National Incident Management System, Incident Command System, forms 201 to 225, and there's a few forms based on 303 and 309. That's a lot of forms. There's a whole book dedicated to this. Oddly enough, also FEMA says that everyone should use plain language. Yet, as you can see, the number of acronyms on this page alone is quite staggering here. There's entire rather thick volumes of acronym definitions that FEMA publishes. I always say that when we're talking to the general public, we shouldn't be calling it CERT. We should spell it out, Community Emergency Response Team. And that makes it approachable and understandable for people. But if you start talking about CERT and the person has no idea what you're talking about, you quickly alienate people. So keep that in mind as you're communicating with your team. When you're communicating with others, is don't overuse acronyms. Yes, it's hard to do sometimes, but we want to try and keep everything very understandable, and acronyms surely are not. These forms are really designed to be generic and applied to all possible situations. That's the CERT forms. Christy, our Valley Bureau coordinator, put it very, very well, that I think she hit the nail on the head, that the CERT forms are designed to be so generic that they're not usable. What we are, I believe, expected to do is customize the forms to make them apply to our situation, apply to our regional level. And so what we've done is, with the neighborhood team program system, is we've modified the existing CERT forms. Instead of reinventing the wheel and creating brand new forms from scratch, we've taken the existing forms 1 through 8, and modified them so that they're more usable. And we've also gone back in time and used some older forms that I think really work better than some of the newer forms do. But CERT forms are labeled 1 through 8, and the general idea is that you're going to use them in that sequence. Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, and so on. Now, before we actually get into the forms, I want to address one thing: is what is an incident? An incident is something we can do something about. For example, is there a survivor that needs help? Is there a danger that can be mitigated or needs to be mitigated? If you have a gas leak or you have power lines down, can you put caution tape up around those power lines to make sure that people don't get electrocuted by traveling into them? Do you need additional resources to deal with this incident? That makes it an incident if you need additional resources. Do you need professional responders? If you need professional responders, it's definitely an incident, because we want to make sure that we can escalate this incident to the professionals and get their help there. Incidents are things that we assign incident numbers to, quite simply. If it's just situational awareness only, you're providing a piece of information that the staging area should be aware of, then it should not necessarily need an incident number, especially if we can't do anything about it. It's just a piece of information. So we're going to try this again. We tried this last time with a poll and it didn't work, but I'm hoping I've figured out how to get this to work this time. This is going to be a little quiz. Incident number one is, oops, nope, nope. I can relaunch that one. This is in reverse order. Incident number one. You encounter as a damage assessment team car that has collided into a tree. As you approach the car, you discover that a 40-year-old female driver is trapped within the car. She has no obvious signs of injury. The engine is off, and there are no obvious signs of danger to the survivor. Is this an incident, or is this not an incident? Go ahead and answer on the poll, as some of you are already doing. And I will warn you that some of these are deliberately designed to be tricky because we want you to think about this. This is 32 people have answered so far. A few more coming in. Give another few seconds here for you to answer.
Patrick, it's Christy. Where's the poll?
I can't see your screen, so I don't know, but 40 people have answered so far. So,
I think because I was a co-host, I'm seeing the poll as it's coming up.
Okay.
Okay.
It just popped up on the screen.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So what popped on the screen is me watching the stuff come in.
Okay.
I'm glad I didn't hit end poll.
Yes.
It's a big red button. I want to hit it.
All right. So 72% of people have said that this is an incident. 28% have said not an incident. This one, I will tell you, is a little tricky. Can you do something about this? Do you need additional resources? Is the survivor in danger? Is there a survivor involved? Is there damage, something that can be mitigated? If the answer is yes to any of these questions, you have a survivor that's trapped in the car. If you can't get them out, you need additional resources. She might not be injured right now, and the engine's off. There's no danger to her, but you want to get a team over there with the resources to get her out or get professionals out there to extricate her from the vehicle. And so, yes, it is an incident. You would assign an incident number to this, and then hopefully you can get resources over. Or if you can get her out, you're going to be documenting this. And if you can get her out of the vehicle and deal with the incident yourself, you still want an incident number. You still want to have documentation of this incident for future reference.
But just for the point of you going out, would that not be an incident?
Well, say you're a damage assessment team, you're going around looking for incidents.
Oh,
you
so
encounter
the
vehicle.
You about one.
Yeah, so this would be an incident. All right, incident number 2. A little cumbersome here. Okay, incident number 2. You're a damage assessment team. You're walking along. As you're walking on the sidewalk, you smell rotten eggs. You walk up to one of the single family homes and see the gas meter. One of the dials is spinning fast. So you pull out your non-sparking emergency tool, shut off the gas meter, and the smell starts to dissipate. Is this an incident? I will actually say this is one that came up in one of our drills. And there was quite a bit of discussion about this. Let's go back to the qualifying things here. Are there survivors that need help? Is there any damage? Is there need for additional resources? Do you need professionals to come and help? If you've mitigated the danger yourself, you've turned off the gas, then yeah, 56% saying not an incident, 44% saying an incident. I would argue that this is not an incident because there's no need to follow up. You turned off the gas, you've dealt with it. There's nothing more that needs to be done here. Yes, let staging know, hey, at this address we encountered a gas leak, we shut off the gas. but it's not an incident at this point because you don't need an additional team to go out. You don't need to do anything more. Now, it could be that there's someone inside that has passed out. That's the risk here, but this is something that staging should document and your team should document, but you don't want to lock up your damage assessment team really on something that you've mitigated. You don't know that there's possibly a victim inside. Unless you go inside, there's no way to find out that there is someone in there, unfortunately. We don't advocate for breaking and entering unless you're going in, someone's screaming for help, and they're asking you to come break into their home to get them out of there, and you're doing so to save their life. And even then, it's questionable if you're going to do that. So I would say not an incident for this one. Possible incident number 3. You approach, as you're walking along the sidewalk, you see a help sign in the front window. You go up, knock on the front door, no answer. You call out, asking, shouting, does anyone need help? No response. You look around, you look in the windows, you see no signs of distress, no signs of anyone being in there, no signs that anyone actually needs help. Is this an incident? Go back to the criteria. Is there a survivor that needs help? We don't know. Do you need additional resources? We don't know. Do you need professionals? There's an indication that someone possibly needs help here. I would not break and enter to find out if anyone, maybe they've already left, or maybe they're unconscious inside. I don't think I would break and enter and find out. I would leave that to the professionals. So in this one, I would say this is an incident because obviously there's a help sign there. Somebody put something up saying they need help. It certainly requires follow-up. I would send another team out there who can take a more in-depth look. I wouldn't take too much time as a damage assessment team trying to figure out if someone's in there. But help wanted sign, yeah. Potentially the professionals can arrive and make entry, and maybe there is someone inside that's trapped and needs help. But I would say this is an incident for sure. Certainly, it's going to get an incident number. It might not be the highest priority, but if incident response team is on the way, they should check in on it and see if there really is somebody in there who needs help. Okay. Possible incident number 4, 15-year-old female. She tripped and fell on the sidewalk, and as you approached, you see her prone on the ground. You ask if she needs help. She screams in pain. You approach. You assess that she possibly has a broken ankle. We can't diagnose unless you're a doctor. Something that is obviously a broken ankle is still possibly a broken ankle or has obvious signs that it is a broken ankle, but we're not going to say it's a broken ankle because we're not diagnosing. You ask her, can she walk home? She says no. Is this an incident? Going back to the criteria, do we have a survivor who needs help? Yes. Do you need additional resources? Possibly. Do you need the professionals? Quite possibly. Is there something more that needs to be done? Is this danger? If she's stuck out on the sidewalk, unable to move, I would say she's certainly in danger. Now, if you're a damage assessment team, what can you do about this? Maybe you can, if she lives close by, you can maybe help her to her home. I would see if there's a neighbor who knows her. The 15-year-old female makes this a particularly dicey situation because you don't want to put some random stranger responsible for her and things happen. you have to keep that in mind as you're dealing with this. And this is why we make these scenarios very gray. We want you to think about them now in case they really happen, and think about what you would do about this before you encounter this in real life. Definitely an incident. There's a lot of different things you can do about this, but definitely an incident. You're going to give an incident number. You're going to be documenting this heavily. And hopefully you can get her some help so you can move on and continue your damage assessment. Possible incident number 5. You have as you're walking along the sidewalk, you find a unresponsive 35-year-old male. No signs of trauma. There's no pool of blood. There's no bruising anywhere. As you assess, you shake, shout, tap. No signs of responsiveness. You check pulse. You look for breathing. No signs of life. You do a head tilt chin lift, trying to get the person to breathe. The person does not respond. You look around. Hey, does anybody see what happened? No witnesses to what happened here. I would say this person is dead. You wouldn't start CPR on this person. And that's really the only thing you could possibly do unless you have advanced medical able to help. But the thing is, when you find a dead body during a disaster, you don't want to move the dead body because you don't know if this person died as a result of the earthquake and they could have had a heart attack, or something could have fallen and hit them. Or sometimes people take advantages of disasters and murder people, hoping that they'll get away with a crime. So this person, you don't know what happened to them, and the police have to deal with this. Is this an incident? This is going to be one of the trickier ones here, because is there a survivor that you can help? No. Do you need professionals? Yes. You need the police. But is there anything you can do about this? Really, honestly. Someone mentioned the black tarp. You would not transport this person to the black tarp. You would have to leave them in place. And again, this is one of the things that came out of our drill. I would say no, this is not an incident. This one is a borderline. You're certainly going to report it to staging. You're certainly going to document it. You need to have this followed up with. But when the staging area dispatches an incident response team, are they going to send a team to the dead body? The answer is no, they're not. So I would say this is not an incident. But if you said this was an incident, I wouldn't disagree too hard with you. But the question is, can we do something about this? And the answer is no. And that's why I would say this is not an incident. But very close, 52 to 48. All right. Possible incident number 6. You can see smoke visible from a block away. As you're approaching, you find a fully engulfed single-family home. You call out, is anybody inside? No, no one seems to be home. There's no one on the front lawn. There's no one around there. You do have neighbors on either side who are very, very concerned about this fully engulfed home next to them. And you interview them, and they say that the residents of this particular home are on vacation. Is this an incident? Are there survivors you can deal with that you can help? No. Does this require professionals? Absolutely. This is something that the fire department needs to deal with. And what could be worse is that fire could spread to the adjoining homes. And so there's not too much that you can do about it, really nothing that the neighbors can do about. Best that they can do is they can turn on water. Hopefully you still have water pressure, and put water on their homes and hopefully try and keep their homes from burning as well. But this is something the fire department needs to deal with. Hopefully you have communications with the fire department at this point and can get them over there. Chances are A burning building is something that they're going to be aware of. That's what they're looking for on their windshield assessments. But it's also not something you can deal with. You wouldn't send an incident response team to try and put out the fire on a fully engulfed home. And that's the key part, fully engulfed. At that point, there is absolutely nothing you can do. It's going to take probably multiple fire engines to do something about this. And unfortunately, this is probably one of the worst possible scenarios that you can have right after an earthquake. So document, give it an incident number, try and get this to escalated to the fire department as quickly as possible. Possible incident number 7. You have a small bush on fire. You're able to put it out with a hose, and after completely saturating and soaking that bush, you are confident the fire appears to be completely out, fully out. Is this an incident? Do you have survivors to deal with here that need help? Is there a danger that needs to be mitigated? Do you need professionals? Under normal circumstances, I would definitely call 911. I would definitely have the fire department come out and make sure that fire's out. This is an earthquake scenario. This is a disaster scenario. This is not going to be on top of anyone's priority list. You should document it for sure. You should tell staging about it for sure. Are they going to send an incident response team to deal with this? You've mitigated the problem and it is no longer a problem. Same thing with the gas, leaking gas. You turned off the gas. I would say no, this is not an incident. I would not send anybody to it. But certainly this is documented and make sure that, oh yeah, we put out a fire, or we thought we did, and then the fire spread and relit and burned down the house. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But I would say not an incident. Possible incident number 8. You have, as you're walking along, you discover a medium-sized tree that has fallen over across the sidewalk and is partially blocking a parking space. No damage, no injuries. It hasn't landed on a car. You don't see any limbs sticking out from underneath the tree, human limbs. And it's not blocking the street. Is this an incident? Are there any survivors that need help? No. Is this something that needs to be mitigated? It's not blocking the street. Do you need to put caution tape around it? It's a good sized tree. I personally wouldn't waste caution tape on it. It's not like it's electrical lines that could be live. Are you going to send an incident response team to deal with anything here? Follow up on this? I would say no, not an incident. Good. That was 98% said no here. I think the one person who said yes is just being contrarian. Good job. All right. Possible incident number 8. Let's see if I can relaunch this one. Okay. You discovered down power lines in car. No occupants, no signs of damage, no one at risk right now. But down power lines. Are there survivors that need help? No. Is there a danger that needs to be mitigated? Yes. Even if the power's out right now, the power could come back on. You always assume that down power lines are live. At the very least, I would put caution tape up around this. Does this require follow-up from an incident response team? Maybe. Does this require professionals? Absolutely. Unlike something like you put out a fire or natural gas that you shut off, best you can do is try and keep people away from it. I would say that this is not something that you're going to send an incident response team to, especially if you can put caution tape around it and keep people away from the down power lines. But this is something that needs to be reported up the chain. And I would say this is an incident. Very good. 87% agree with me here. So, all right. Now that we have a fair understanding and good job, the ones where it was more evenly split were some of the really tricky ones, the ones designed to trick you. But on some of the more obvious ones, you were very good on accurately discerning is this instant. And this is important because part of the flow is you're going to have someone who's listening to the radio communication and deciding is this an incident or not? Does this need an incident number? Is this something we need to respond to or not? We go back to the CERT forms. There's really 9 CERT forms. CERT form 1 is the damage assessment damage assessment form. The idea is as you're walking towards the staging area, you're filling out any possible any incidents as you discover them, walking over to the staging area, and then you turn in your form 1s, and these are the incidents that are reported in. Now, the basic CERT training doesn't talk about the difference between a damage assessment team and an incident response team. It assumes that there's also maybe not even radio communication capabilities. They don't talk about using radios in the basic class. What we teach is radios. You go straight to the staging area, you note any instances you're going in, you report them on the radio, but you're going to send out a damage assessment team because you need to find out how bad things are. That's where your primary damage assessment is going to come in from. The idea of the CERT form 1, and it says on it completed en route to staging area, is that is your damage assessment. As people are coming from their homes to the staging area, that is the damage assessment. Not an incorrect way to do it, but that's why that form exists. CERT form 2 is the personnel check-in form, and that's to be completed at the staging area. CERT form 3, team assignments completed at the staging area. CERT form 4, briefing assignment completed at the staging area. CERT form 5, survivor treatment area tracking. So as you set up a treatment area, this is how you're going to track the survivors who are at the tarps. And this is to be completed at the treatment area that you've set up. CERT form 6 is the comms log, communications log, and this is going to be completed wherever there's any radio communications, preferably on both sides, by the field teams and by the staging area. If you have equipment that is going into a pool or being utilized or shared, the equipment log, CERT form 7. General message log. This is very similar, but a different format than the communications log. This is more for ham radio operators who are transcribing messages. If you do this, and some hospitals do it, where you send a message verbatim, you write down every single word that's sent over the radio. That's what the general message form is for exact transcription of a radio transmission. The 9th form we call CERT form 0. It's a blank sheet of paper. It is whatever you need it to be. If you don't have any of the forms and you have blank sheets of paper, you can create your own forms. I highly recommend everybody have blank sheets of paper, or maybe lined notebook paper, something blank that you can use as you need for whatever reason. So I mentioned the damage assessment form, CERT form 1. We look at this and it's fairly basic. You have observations, you have location, date, the team name, CERT team name at the top. You have hazards from the size up. There are fires, gas leaks, water leaks, electrical, chemical structure, number of trapped, injured, or dead people. Are there any animals? Sometimes they could be dangerous. Roaming, trapped, injured. Trapped in animals are extremely dangerous because you don't know what they're going to do. If you try and untrap them, you could get bit or worse. Is there any accessibility issues on the roads? Very basic form. But this is the idea is as you're walking to the staging area, anything you see, you document here on the damage assessment form. At least I think that's how it's supposed to work. CERT Form 4 is a briefing assignment. You can see this is kind of similar. Your size up is on the bottom, same structure. You have observations that you put in a blank space, and you have objectives here. And it is double-sided, so or 2 pages. So you have the initial objectives, instructions to the team, any equipment allocated, and then a large area on the back that you can write down what the team has done, draw a map, or whatever. Kind of the same thing from the damage assessment form, the objectives, I'm sorry, observations here. What we've done is, I don't think you need this form. I don't think you need the form, I'm sorry. I don't think you need Form 1. Form 4 is basically Form 1 with a second page that you can do something on. And so we've eliminated with the neighborhood team program, we've eliminated the Form 1 and focused on Form 4, but we've modified it. We've made it more useful to our needs. What we've done is we've made the front page for the damage assessment team. This is where they're going to document the incident and size up. And then on the back is where the incident response team is going to detail what they did at the incident. You can see we've made some changes here. This is the modified Form 4, and this is the original Form 4. We've added a few things, but we haven't reinvented it. We've just made it customized to our needs so that it's more usable. We want to get an incident number. We want to know what team is reporting this in, what time they reported in. When an incident response team gets assigned, what time are they assigned, and what time are they completed the incident? Which incident response team is assigned, and then a lot of it is pretty much the same. It's a size up, but this is specifically from the damage assessment team. And then when we fill it out, and I apologize that this example is from an older version of our customized form, so it's not identical to the current version. You can see that the changes are the original instructions team has now been changed to a report from damage assessment team. There's been a few tweaks to just make it a little more obvious what we want you to put in here. But what's the date? What incident number is it? What time was reported, which team reported it, and then location and the size up from the damage assessment team. In this case, it's a 2-story house, building shifted on the foundation, porch overhang has collapsed, blocking the front door. There is a woman inside calling for help. She is trapped in her living room under an entertainment center. We can see her from the front window. Very basic, quick size up. This is the information that staging needs. So this is what the damage assessment team is going to record. They're going to report this over the radio, and staging is going to document. And this should be fairly identical on the staging side. And if you read it this way, if you document and read it this way, it's fairly easy to report over the radio. Second example, same idea, 25-year-old male. So some abbreviations, we will, hopefully it'll be obvious, 25M, 24F, 50M, 65F, male, female. We won't get into any more than that. Not necessarily what the real age is, but just a quick size up. How old does this person appear? Trip and fall, unable to walk, possibly broken ankle. What's the location? Now, I recommend getting both the exact address and a closest cross street, because if you don't know the area and you're trying to find an address on a map, that takes a lot more time. You go, okay, this is it's on Hoffman and it's the alley behind Radford. Okay. And add to that an actual address, and you can quickly find that on a map. To replace the damage assessment form, Form 1, this is an older form, the rapid needs assessment. And I like this because in our current set of CERT forms, we really don't have anything like this. You're talking about at the staging area, what are all the incidents that we have? And how do we prioritize them? Well, this form is great because you can quickly write in the time it was reported, the location or address, a quick size up, comments, quick size up here, just give an idea of what this incident is. And then conveniently on the left side, it's numbered 1 to 10. Well, that's page 1. Page 2 is going to be 11 to 20. Page 3 would be 21 to 30. All you have to do is quickly add an extra number to the left of this. And now you have your incident number. It's sequential. So you put your first incident here, it's incident number 1. Put your second incident here, it's incident number 2. Third incident, fourth incident, and so on. And this is your master list of all the incidents that are happening and that you need to address. And you can quickly look at this and get a size up of the criticality of the incident. How many survivors do you have? What are the needs? Hence the name Rapid Need Assessment. Now, this is not really something that we're focusing on here, but this is an example where an older form I actually like better than the newer form. The newer form, Form 2, Personnel Resources, asks you, oh, you know what? I apologize. That is not the older form, newer form. I made a mistake here. I included 2 copies of the newer form. So the newer Personnel Resources form asks you, what do you want to do? What's your preferred team? Do you want to be on fire suppression? Do you want to be on search and rescue? Or do you want to be on medical? Well, I don't find that particularly helpful. I want to know what your skills are. If you're an EMT or you have basic first aid, how good are you on a radio? How good do you rate yourself at leadership? How's your penmanship? Are you a good scribe? Rate yourself from 1 to 5. And the way I put it is, if you can teach it, you're a 5. If you're aware of it, you're a 1 or a 0. We've added on here a breakdown of the medical rating. So anyone who is an EMT or greater is a 5. Emergency medical responders a 3. Current first aid CPR AED is a 2. Expired first aid card a 1. 5 EMT, 4 EMR, 3 first aid CPR, 2 expired first aid. 1 is basic CERT training, or no or 0 is untrained. No experience.
Patrick?
Yeah.
Mark here. At
Mark.
several incidents, you probably were present at some of them, or not incidents, drills and exercises. I advocated not using this form for drills and exercises, but only at actual events, disasters, emergencies, because each time it's used at an exercise, the people who are always strong in medical or a particular area will be assigned to that area, and contrasting or opposite of what you were saying earlier, that everybody should rotate and learn everything. I just observed that what happens is somebody who says they have lots of radio experience will always end up being a radio person. Somebody who says they have lots of medical will always become a medical person at the exercises, and they won't get the training of the other areas. Enough said. I just wanted to say.
And I totally agree with you. The whole point of this is to be able to fill out a team with the correct skills that you need on that team. The reason why we want to continue using this at the drill is because we want you to train on the forms that you're going to see actually used. If you're used to using the new form that says, what do you want to do? And then you come to an actual incident and the staging area is using this form where you rate yourself, you're going to not know how to fill out this form. This form is actually one of the forms I recommend that the scribe fills out. They interview the person as they come up and say, okay, one of the things is we added the CERT train column because neighborhood team program is all inclusive. If you're not CERT trained and you want to help, you're more than welcome to. The question is, well, not the question. The mandate is that all teams have to be led by someone who's CERT trained. And so we ask, are you CERT trained? What's your name, contact information, and then check-in time, check-out time. That's equally important, and we usually fail at doing this on the drills, but we want to make sure that everybody has left safely. We didn't lose somebody along the way. So that record is quite important. And then have them rate themselves from 1 to 5, and then any special skills. They're military trained, they own a chainsaw, stuff like that, special equipment. But again, this is not really about this form. I just wanted to show the variations and how the older forms are sometimes, in my opinion at least, better than the newer forms. But I apologize for flubbing up the slide and including 2 of the same form. Form 3 is assignment tracking log, and this is again one of the ones we modified. Our teams are odd number teams. And the reason for odd numbers is that when you have an even number team, it's very easy to break them up into pairs. When you start as a team is not a pair is not a team. A team, the minimum number of people you need for a team is 3 people. And that's because one of the roles is team leader. And that team leader's job is to make sure everyone on the team is safe. If you have a team of 4, it is way too easy to say, we're going to split this team into 2 pairs because it's been pounded into our heads that nobody goes anywhere alone. We're always with a pair. We're always with a buddy. We're always with a partner. And 2 partners, 2 teams of 2, they're not teams. So we want to stick to the odd number for a very specific reason, and that is you can't break up a 3-person team. Not easily. Same thing, 5-person team, 7-person team. We want to avoid the even numbers just because the math makes it a little more difficult to break up. And we see this all the time that you have a 6-person team out there and suddenly it becomes 3 teams of 2. And that's very problematic when you're trying to keep people safe and make sure there's always a team leader. And then we've outlined the key positions. So we state that there are 3 key positions on any team, and that goes back to that 3-person team: team leader, radio operator, and scribe. So your radio operator and scribe are positions 2 and 3 on the team. Anyone else is a hands-on responder, and those should be in pairs. So if you keep to that model, 3 plus a 2-person hands-on team, hands-on responder pair, that's 5. You add another pair, that's 7. And then you see at the top the guidelines, damage assessment team or incident response team. Those are the 2 teams in the field. Once all damage assessment is done, everybody becomes an incident response team. Location would be the state. Actually, you'd probably get rid of that. You don't really need that. Team name. So we identify and we standardize upon damage assessment teams are always Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta, and there will be no more, but there could be less than 4 damage assessment teams. But if you hear Alpha or you hear Delta, you always know it's a damage assessment team. So if you only have 3 damage assessment teams, you only have Alpha, Charlie, and Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. There is no Delta team. Incident response teams are always Echo, Foxtrot, Golf, Hotel, or you can keep going down the alphabet if you have that many resources. But delta is always a damage assessment team, and there might not be a delta. Again, not the focus on this, but just demonstrating some of our modified forms and the logic behind it. So we've customized the first 4 forms to make them more useful. We replaced the damage assessment form with the rapid needs assessment form. The other forms, again, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're just modifying and making them more useful so that based on our experience, based on all the drills we've done, that these can actually work. We've eliminated Form 8. We're not transcribing. If you want to use it, cool. But there's not a need for an extra communications log in our opinion. So how does an incident start and how does it complete? Your damage assessment teams are going to go out in the field and they're going to be looking for incidents. They're looking for things they can help with or things that need help with. They're looking for survivors who need help. They're looking for dangers that need to be mitigated. They're looking for some indication there's a problem caused by the disaster that has been experienced. And when they encounter something, they're going to try and figure out, is this an incident or not? If they decide that it's an incident, they need to report it. Now, if it's not an incident and it's just situational awareness, they should also report it. So they encounter an incident. Say there's a 15-year-old female trip and fall on the sidewalk with possibly a broken ankle. Team leader decides it's an incident, tells the scribe to start filling out Form 4, the briefing assignment form, the modified briefing assignment form, and then call this into staging. The damage assessment team radio operator calls staging, and we use the 5W format, and I forgot to put this in here. But to simplify communications, you're going to call who you're trying to reach, and you're going to tell them who you are. Staging, this is Alpha Team. You're going to wait for confirmation from staging that they heard you and that they're ready for your traffic. You should hear something like, Alpha Team from staging, go ahead. Then you're going to start over. Staging, this is Alpha Team. We're at the corner of walk and don't walk. If your radio dies at that point, at least they know where to find you. Staging, this is Alpha Team. We're at the corner of walk and don't walk. What do you have and what do you need? We have a 15-year-old female, trip and fall, possible broken ankle. She is unable to walk. We need an incident response team or we need transport to the medical treatment area. Very simple. If staging has any questions, they'll follow up and ask them. But you want to get on the air and off the air as quickly as possible. Be short, concise, and to the point. Who are you trying to reach? Who are you? Where are you? What do you have and what do you need? You might not need anything. Situational awareness. Staging, this is Alpha Team, corner of Tree Branch and Street. We have a fallen tree, no obvious signs of injury, and no risk to any of the neighbors, just a fallen tree. For your situational awareness only. Cool. Thanks, Alpha Team. We got it. Staging is going to answer the call. And the staging radio operator should have a dedicated scribe whose job is to document the communications. That Form 6, that communications log, and I forgot to put a screenshot of it in here, is very important. This is going to be reference. And this is not verbatim, everything that was said, but concise points and documentation about all the communication that's happening here. So you really want a good scribe paired with the radio operator at staging, because if you have a bad scribe here, this record is going to be incomplete. It's going to be missing. It's going to be very problematic. You're going to reference this Form 6 all the time. So So they should have a very good, you should have a very good scribe here documenting here. This is where you want your strongest scribe. They're going to document what the teams call in. So they'll hear over the radio, staging, this is Alpha Team, corner of walk and don't walk. We have a 15-year-old female trip and fall with a possible broken ankle. They document this, and if you don't have another scribe here at staging, they will then move on and start filling out the Form 4, the briefing assignment. If you do have another scribe here who can do this, this is great, because that person's also listening to the radio and they say, okay, this sounds like an incident. I'm going to start filling out Form 4. And if I miss something, I can go to the comms log from the radio operator scribe and get any information I missed so we don't have to have anybody repeat anything. Once that Form 4 is filled out, there's no incident number on this yet. They're going to take this over to the staging manager, their deputy, or a scribe assigned to this role. And they're going to say, we have an incident. It's at a corner of walk and don't walk. It's a 15-year-old female trip and fall with a possible broken ankle. She needs transport. I'm going to write this on the rapid needs assessment. Go back to that one. So they're going to put the address here, the time that's being reported in, 15 female, 15F, trip fall, broken ankle, needs transport. That's going to be incident number 1. And the scribe is going to update Form 4 with number 1 on the incident number. Alpha team reported it in. The time it was reported here, address, and then they're going to take it back to the radio operator and tell them, Alpha team, your incident is number 1, or 2, or 3, or 4. Now, the team should move on or try and do something. Hopefully, they can find a relative or family member or a trusted neighbor that can take this female 15-year-old. Or worst case scenario, you got to leave her there. We like those scenarios because it makes you think. Is this something we really want to do? Do we want to leave someone with a broken ankle here? What other options do we have? Is there something we can do about this? Really makes that team have to think about it, because if you do encounter this in real life, this is going to be one of those gray scenarios where you're going to want to do something, but you're limited in what you can do. Can you carry her somewhere with 3 people? Maybe. Might not be the best option, but maybe it's your only option. Now, when it's time to deploy incident response teams, you're going to use that rapid needs assessment form. You're going to also put the incident numbers on the map along with your team locations. So you're tracking, knowing where your teams are in the field. And say, okay, we have incident number 7. It's a car crash, car into tree, 35F, trapped, needs extrication. No injuries. Is this the highest priority that we have right now? Do we have, maybe it's the closest incident to an incident response team. This is where that resource management comes in. But you're going to be looking at your rapid needs assessment. You're going to be looking at the map and seeing where your teams are, prioritizing where you're going to send them. You decide, okay, incident number 7 was where Echo team is going to go next. They have crowbar. They have an EMT on the team. Hopefully they can get this person out and get them to safety. So we're going to assign this incident number 7 to Echo team. Tell the scribe to pull out the briefing form for incident number 7, and then call Echo team and give them the size up. And that should sound something like this. Echo team from staging. Staging, this is Echo team, go ahead. Echo team from staging, we're assigning you to incident number 7. It's at the corner of tree and smashed car. You have a 35-year-old female trapped, no obvious signs of injury. Do you still have that crowbar? You think you can get them out? Staging, this is Echo team. Yeah, smashed car is just down the street from us. We'll head over there and we'll see what we can do. What Echo team should do is they should pull out the Form 4, and their scribe is going to start filling that out on their side. Address, location, I'm sorry, address, incident number. So this is going to be incident number 7. You know, Alpha team reported it. Maybe you let Echo team know that Alpha team reported it. Time reported. That's not really that relevant for the incident response team, but you're assigning it to Echo and you're assigning it at 2033. We do it in military time. 8:33 p.m. is 2033. And then the team, when they get there, they're going to head over there. And when they arrive, they're going to call staging and say, staging, this is Echo team. We have arrived at incident number 7. It is at, confirming it is at tree and smashed car. We have one vehicle into tree with 35-year-old female trapped, no obvious signs of injury. They're confirming the size up because sometimes you're going to get to an incident and it's going to be nothing like what you were told it was going to be. We have arrived on scene of incident number 7 at tree and smashed car. There are 2 vehicles. It's a head-on collision. We have 4 survivors, 2 trapped, 2 have extricated themselves and are bleeding severely. And you have no idea. Staging has no idea that that is what's really happened. Maybe it was one car and got hit by another car. Things change. Bad information gets sent all the time. What you don't want to do is get there and go, hey, staging, you lied to us. Nothing here is right. We've heard stuff like that during drills. It would just be flexible. Things change, things get wrong. This happens in real life all the time. Several of us volunteer for the Red Cross during Rose Parade as EMTs. We get dispatched to an incident and it is nothing like what we've been told it's going to be. Or we're at a different incident and we haven't arrived at the incident we were dispatched to. Or any number of things could happen. Professional EMS get this all the time. They arrive and what the dispatch told them is nothing like what's really happening. So you update staging, let them know what the confirmed size up is and number of survivors, what you have. So you update staging, let them know. You're then going to deal with the incident, bring it to conclusion. One vehicle, your crowbar is able to help you get the door open and you get the woman out safely. She's unharmed. Staging, this is Echo team regarding incident number 7. We have extricated the 35-year-old female from the vehicle. She is safe, unharmed. We are closing out this incident and she is going to be released on her own recognizance. What is our next incident? This was a lot of information. There's a lot of steps here. The reason why is because they don't talk about this in the basic CERT training class. How are you expected to know any of this when you graduate the CERT training? This is a lot, but this is why we encourage you to come to drills, because we go through this process over and over again so that when the actual disaster occurs, when the actual earthquake occurs, you're not standing there holding your bag and going, I don't know what to do. Now, will this be identical to what you experience in the field? No, it won't be. But hopefully we've given you enough examples and scenarios and things that you've seen and made you think about this so that when the actual disaster occurs, you're going to go, okay, we practiced this. We practiced something similar. We're going to be flexible. We're going to make this work. But at least we've thought about this before. Basic flow chart. Damage assessment team discovers an incident. They use Form 4 to document the size up, report it over the radio to the staging area. Staging area is going to take that reported incident and assign it incident number 1. They're then going to use that Form 4, that same Form 4, and report it to assign it to an incident response team, who is then going to go to incident number 1, deal with incident number 1, update their documentation, and then radio back to staging what the outcome is. At the end, when you look at all the paperwork, the damage assessment Form 4 should be very similar to the front of the staging area's Form 4. The incident response team's Form 4 front and back should be very similar to the staging area's Form 4 front and back. It's a lot of work, but if there's any question, what happened at this incident? Hey, what happened in incident number 7? You said there was a 35-year-old female. You were able to get her out and the vehicle, and you released her on her own recognizance. She's now suing because you damaged her vehicle with a crowbar. That's where the documentation comes in. And sad to say, as volunteers, this may happen to us. We help someone during a disaster, and they call the closest, they see a billboard that says, "Has somebody wronged you? Would you like to make millions of dollars off of them? Call us at 1-800-SCAM-LAWYER." Documentation is important. Hopefully we don't encounter this. Hopefully no one tries to take advantage of the situation, but unfortunately, we rely on our documentation to defend ourselves. And so that you can go back and go, yeah, I remember this. I documented it. This is what happened. Yeah, we had to use the crowbar to get the person out, but they were trapped in there. There was no other way to get them out. I think Christy probably mentioned this. The Encino Disaster Preparedness Drill is this Saturday, May 18th from 7. It says 8 to noon, but it does say sign up starts at 7:30. So we encourage you to get there early, sign up. There's a short URL here for the Eventbrite. If you'd like to sign up, you can sign up as a victim volunteer. We need them. Or you can sign up as a rescuer. I think there's maybe other options. Or just show up. Encino Park, 16953 Ventura Boulevard in Encino. Saturday, May 18th, 7:30. Sign up there. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, lafdcertcentral@gmail.com. Now, if you have any questions that you want to email me and ask me about, do you have any questions? This was a lot. This is, again, one of our more advanced topics because this is not stuff they teach in the CERT class. I see someone with a Bruce, you've got a Tigard CERT banner. Did you learn any of what we just went over in your CERT basic training?
No.
No. Do you have anything similar that your CERT team is practicing? Any kinds of standard operating procedures like this?
We have done some drills, but observing this, not enough.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I don't expect you to become experts at this just by having this one presentation, but the reason why we drill regularly is we use the same format so that you start to build that muscle memory, and all the stuff that we just went over with becomes normal to you. You can see it. And then if you want to take this up to other CERT programs, feel free. If you have any questions about it, I can send the slide deck. I can send some of our procedures. But this is lessons learned, stuff we've learned over years and years of doing drills and coming up with the same conclusion. We don't know what to do because this was never taught to us. Christy, you got anything to add?
The forms are so important. I love that you kind of ended on that, but the more you use the forms, And I always encourage at all my trainings for people to use the forms, especially the 214, which he didn't touch on, but it's just a general form. I dislike most of these forms, but the more you kind of use them, then you get used to what the information is. What's important is, your name, the date, the incident name, and the information you're getting. So that if you don't have the form, you just have a blank piece of paper, you can use it. Use the forms, practice with them.
All right. So do we have any questions? Again, I know that we went through a lot. This is being live cast to our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and search for LAFD CERT or CERT coordinators, you should find our channel. I believe it is LAFD CERT coordinators. And go into the live tab and you can rewatch this, or if you want to share it with anybody, you can share the recording with them.
Hey, Patrick, this is Nathan. Just quick question.
Nathan.
As far as like naming conventions and incident numbers, is there a standard for that or how does that work?
So the incident number comes off the rapid needs assessment form, and it's just sequential. So the first incident that gets reported in, documented, is incident number 1. We're trying not to make things too difficult and come up with any convoluted things. It should be simple and easy to find this. The team names are just based upon the NATO alphabet. So your first teams out are going to be damage assessment teams. You should have no more than 4, so Alpha Bravo, Charlie Delta. And then any other team after that, Echo and onward, is going to be an incident response team. We tried to come up with more creative names earlier on, but it was just too much that had to be thought about. So it's just simpler to use the NATO alphabet.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or editorials?
Pamela has her hand up.
Pamela has her hand up. Why don't I see that?
Just unmute herself.
Oh, Pam. Okay.
And she's
Pam actually has her hand up. Okay. Hey, Pam. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Pam. You're muted, Pam.
Okay. Where do we get a set of these forms, a complete set?
So I believe the CERT-LA form, CERT-LA.com website does have the CERT forms, the official FEMA ones. We have under the Neighborhood Team Program website, documents.ntp-la.org. There is a forms folder, and we have the modified NTP forms there, as well as the regular CERT forms as well.
That's on what did you say? NTP?
Yeah, I just posted it in the chat, documents.ntp-la.org, or if you go to our website, ntp-la.org, you should be able to find the document package up there.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Very good. It was a great help. Much clearer than the last go around.
Yeah, and this is something we'll do periodically as we refine the process and update. And as we learn new lessons learned and realize, okay, we completely screwed that up. This is how we're going to do it better. There's been a few requests for me to send you the slide deck. Please email me. And I'll put my email in the chat again, lafdcert@gmail.com. Email me and I can send you the slide deck and the forms as well, if you have any questions or would like those.
Okay. LAFD CERT
Central at gmail.com.
Okay.
All right, then if we have no other questions, no need to keep you guys any longer. Thank you so much for attending. We put these presentations on for you. Like I said, we try and do beginner, intermediate, and advanced topics, and we want to make CERT go beyond the class. We want to take it so that when the disaster occurs, when the earthquake occurs, or whatever, maybe there's a tornado that hits your town, you and your neighbors can actually work together and help. And that's why we do this. So thank you so much for attending. We do this every third Wednesday of the month. I am planning on going to the National CERT Conference in July in Washington, D.C. I hope to see some of you there. I hope that some of our LA people will be there on Saturday at the Encino Valley Drill. I'm going to be there. And thank you so much to Christy for spearheading in that and getting that up. And I think she's going to torture me and make me actually, participate in the drill instead of just helping coach people. So hopefully I don't fall on my face.
I'm sure you won't.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.